Hey, welcome to another episode of Mini BTP. We are continuing our Vision for the Division series. I'm Brandon Mileski. He's Pat Micheletti. And Pat, we're going from the bottom up. So we've already talked about the Chicago Blackhawks and the Arizona Coyotes in the Central Division. If you've missed those, you can listen back to those on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch it at the KFN YouTube channel. Let's go move up to the next team. That would be your sixth place team in the Central Division last season, the St. Louis Blues. Pat, a disappointing season for St. Louis. I'm guessing they still thought they were not necessarily in rebuild mode, but maybe they are now after the Vladimir Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly era is over. They've moved on from that. They decided to pay some of their younger forwards, and they really didn't do a whole lot this summer.
They really didn't, Brandon. And I was just looking throughout the whole division and some of the moves that some of the teams have made, and it appears to me like a lot of these teams, and the Blues are no exception, that they're trying. Yeah, they're paying some of their younger guys, Kyrou Thomas, but they're adding guys that have been around, who haven't, like Kevin Hayes is a new member of their team. That they're just trying to, get a formidable team together and wait for some of the younger draft picks, kind of like Minnesota has in their pipeline, and things like that. So, and that's why I look at some of these teams, and they're all kind of similar, and the Blues are no different.
Yeah, they really didn't do a whole lot this summer, though. At the beginning of the summer, the kind of an interesting storyline where it looked like they were going to have a big trade with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Right.
And Torrey Krug had a no move or no trade clause.
Yep.
Nixed the deal, so that deal was off. The Blues did get Kevin Hayes anyway, center from Philadelphia, just for a 6th-round pick. And really, other than that, they signed Oscar Sundqvist, who was on the Wild's roster at the end of last year.
Hey.
Re-signed Scott Perunovich to a 1-year, one-way extension. But other than that, other than Hayes, they're pretty much running back the same team.
Yeah, they are. And, their D has been suspect as of late. There's been a lot of talk about Parayko maybe being moved, and, he wasn't moved. And you have Nick Leddy now, who I can't believe is a veteran back on that D core. So, it's pretty ironic with the Torrey Krug situation. Turns down the trade, which he has every right to do, because he signed a no move deal, and they gave that to him. So he has that right. But now we just find out he gets hurt in off-season training, and he's not going to be available or be reevaluated till October 1st. So in a way, it's great for a kid like Scott Perunovich, who can jump in and run the power play and really get his chance. And, the question with him is he going to stay healthy? When he's healthy, he's really, really good. And, but, in his 2 years now, he's gotten hurt both years, and, it's been a tough grind. So we hope he does well.
You talk about the blue line, and it's the one area of the team where they have a lot of experience coming back.
Yep.
But I remember, back when the Wild were losing to the Blues in the playoffs, a couple of years ago, it seemed like they had all these big, tall trees, and the Wild couldn't get to the middle of the ice, and they've transformed their blue line over the years. Of, Falk's not small, but he ain't the biggest guy. Nope. He's more of a puck mover.
Yep.
Torrey Krug's slight. Nick Leddy's not the biggest guy. You mentioned Perunovich. Parayko is the one guy who's still big, tall guy. And I know, you go back, if you go to their 5th, 6th, 7th defenseman, they have some taller guys. But when you look inside that top 4, it's a lot of, undersized puck-moving defensemen.
And it goes to show you how old we're getting, Brandon. If you recall, Marco Scandella, you and I were at the Mall of America when he was, I think, his rookie year. And we had him and Spurgeon and a few guys out there, and talking to them. And he's a guy that can still play a little bit, but again, he's getting up there in age, and he gets he's oft injured, and I think he missed I don't know, half the season last year due to injury. So they're getting a little old back there also. And so I think they're in a transition, just like a lot of teams in the division.
Before we get to their goaltending, which is a big time wild card, let's talk about what they have up front, Pat.
Yep.
Because as I mentioned, they've back when the Blues were going well, it seemed like they always had 3-4 strong lines
Yep.
and could get scoring from anywhere. And O'Reilly's gone and Tarasenko's gone, and they've lost some others. And you kind of look at it now, and it's like, for this team to be successful up front, like Kyrou and Robert Thomas got to turn into superstars. And I think they were thinking they were going to, and maybe they still can. But last year, I don't know if that came to fruition. They just don't have as much depth up front.
I find it really interesting, Brandon, when you're in a and they were in a top tier role a year ago after the moves and so forth and so on. But they thrived when they were in a secondary role. And I don't know if it's not feeling the pressure or, just going out and doing your thing. But now to be, the keys are handed to you. And you are expected to produce every night, just like a Kaprizov, just like a Boldy, a Zuccarello, those type players. And it'll be real interesting to see how they handle having to be the guys every night. They're going to be on the power play every night. They're going to get the majority of the minutes, especially late in games when, if they need a goal. So how they handle it will be a big factor in how the Blues end up this year.
All right, let's talk about the goalie, Jordan Binnington. I never know how to get a read on this guy, Pat, because, he's won a Stanley Cup.
Yep.
He came in relief 2 years ago against the Wild.
Yep.
and did pretty well. Yet there are moments, especially last year during the season, where he wants to get in a fight with Marc-Andre Fleury, and the Wild were getting in his kitchen nonstop, and Hartman was getting in his head, and he's a loose cannon, man. And I wouldn't write him off because he's won a cup, but he's not that goalie that what you're going to get out of him every single game. And I think that can be tricky for a team out in front of your goalie sometimes.
Agree 100%. He's one of those guys when he's focused and when he's on his game, he's really good. But as we saw, he can lose it. And once he loses it, he doesn't just lose it, Brandon. He goes crazy and he wants to fight everyone. And I don't know. Sometimes it's good. We saw Patrick Waugh do that, and some of the goalies in the past, but they did it in a way where, they got their team fired up. This is old hat. Those guys must have mentioned.
This is I'm melting down because I just gave up 3 goals in 2 minutes.
Right. And it's like, here we go again. And sometimes that can be a real detriment to the players on the bench in front of them. So, he's a wild card. If when he's on his game and playing well, and focused, he's as good as they get.
You mentioned maybe the team in transition a little bit. When you look at their pipeline, they had 3 first-round picks in this previous draft, and they also have Jimmy Snuggerud, Golden Gopher, in the pipeline as well, who I know the Minnesota Wild were going to draft him if he would have fallen to them.
I'm really, really happy that he came back, because he needs another year of just maturity and really even taking his game to a higher level. Could they have signed him? Could he be in their lineup? Probably, but I think they're doing the right thing with him, and I think this year of college will be really, really good for him. I'll say the same thing about Logan Cooley. Both guys, skill-wise, ready to play in the National Hockey League. But there's more to it than just skill. It's maturity. It's playing with veterans. It's learning the league. It's playing in a long, long season and getting used to that. So many, many things involved. But the Blues got a good one in Snuggerud, that's for sure.
All right, Pat, where will the St. Louis Blues finish in the Central Division this season?
Well, I think they're going to be like some other teams, that they're going to vie for a playoff spot, and we'll have to see how. Right now I would say probably not make the playoffs, but they're going to be in that mix to make it also.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they'll kind of be. There's a bunch of teams that'll be jumbled up in that 4 to 6 range in the division. I think they could easily be 6, and they could easily be 4th. All right, thanks, Pat. We'll talk about the Nashville Predators on our next episode of Mini BTP. Thanks for joining.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks.
He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been another episode of Mini BTP. Like I said, we'll talk about the Predators next. Thank you. Bye.